You clicked on this video because you want to know how to get endless motivation. The elusive endless motivation. Some people say that you can never get endless motivation. Some people say you can. Some people also say you can't get endless motivation, but you can always remotivate yourself. Just watch these motivational videos and you get motivated again. In this video, I'll tell you how to get endless motivation, essentially. But perhaps not in the way that you think it would be. So first of all, I want to talk about dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that probably most people will know by now. It's commonly misunderstood as the pleasure hormone. Going on TikTok, going on YouTube, all social media, video games gives you so much dopamine. And it's not necessarily true, because dopamine isn't exactly a pleasurable hormone. It's a motivator, actually. Dopamine is the hormone that motivates you to get what is pleasurable. It also just makes you move to get that pleasurable thing. Dopamine is a hormone involved in movement, fundamentally. And so, if you are thinking about something, if you're thinking about watching YouTube, dopamine is getting released because as you're thinking about it, you're going to be thinking about how to do the actions to watch YouTube. Dopamine is involved in that mode of thinking, of figuring out how I'm going to do this. Dopamine is the motivator hormone. And so what happens when you do something pleasurable is that because you have this dopamine rise motivating you to do that pleasurable event, after you've done the pleasurable event, your dopamine falls below your baseline. So you can imagine baseline's here, right? Your dopamine is going to rise, right? You do the activity and it's going to drop, but it's going to drop below baseline, right? And then it's going to come back. And so that's what happens when you do something pleasurable. When you do something pleasurable, you spike dopamine, but then it goes back down. And after you do it, and after that pleasurable activity where you actually feel that low dopamine, that's when you want to keep doing pleasurable activities to get that dopamine up again. And every time you do that, every time you do a pleasurable activity, the dopamine ends lower and lower and lower. You can imagine it's going to spike, go down, spike, go down, spike, go down, spike, go down. And now I'm running out of arm space, but you can get the picture. It just spikes, goes down a little bit, and then next time it's going to go down a little bit more, and then even more, and then even more. And that's why when you're playing video games for an hour, it's this is great, I love this. But on the 5th hour, it's yeah, this is not really fun anymore. I don't know why I'm still doing this. It's just, actually I do know why. I'll feel pretty bad if I don't. And that's dopamine. And the thing is, dopamine is fundamental to motivation. As I already said, dopamine is more of a motivational hormone. By altering how you use dopamine, how you choose your activities to release dopamine, that changes how you can have motivation. And so the point is to not reward yourself regularly. If you want the most motivation, do not reward yourself all the time. And to be honest, you can just don't reward yourself for it, right? You do the activity, but you don't reward yourself. You don't spike the dopamine. And this will keep you going, right? This will keep you going. This will keep you motivated because you really want that dopamine. You really want that spike. You really want it because it feels good. And at the same time, if you withdraw that, right? If you withdraw doing pleasurable activities, if you withdraw rewards from yourself, you'll keep going. You will keep doing things. You'll keep you motivated to do them if you don't reward yourself. And you can ask, when do you stop then? Life is to be enjoyed. And I agree. And I say you stop when you are satisfied. You stop at the point where you are satisfied with how much you've done. I mean, you can look at old people. Do they have the same drive as young people? No, they don't, because they're satisfied, right? They don't have the desire to get more and more and more, or at least most of them don't. But they are satisfied with where they're at. So another thing I want to talk about is, why does NoFap work in terms of raising your motivation, in terms of getting things done? Because NoFap gets rid of a very easy, very, very high spiking activity of dopamine. It gets rid of that reward. It gets rid of the sexual release, right? And so without that sexual release, you become more hungry. Your drive is elevated because you don't have that reward anymore. And the same thing happens with all dopaminergic activities: video games, social media, content, food, sex, etc. Everything happens with all the things. It's not just contained to NoFap. And the problem with NoFap is that I don't agree with fapping as the ultimate evil in a sense. Like, NoFap fundamentally is about not masturbating to porn. That is NoFap's fundamental goal, essentially. And my problem with that is that it doesn't speak to fundamentals. If I'm talking about dopamine, I can cover every single dopaminergic topic that stems from dopamine. But if I'm talking about NoFap, right, that's one thing that is stemming off of dopamine. Dopamine is the universal currency in our brain. NoFap is simply an activity that you do, a reward, in a sense. And by stopping NoFap doesn't mean that you will get endless motivation. And if you still play a lot of video games, right, you still eat very pleasurable food, if you still go on social media, etc., it's like NoFap is simply one aspect that gives you dopamine, that rewards you. And that's the issue with it. Instead, by looking at fundamental concepts like dopamine, you can therefore look at other activities that you do that reward yourself with that spike of dopamine and then subsequent crash. Maybe you don't suffer with watching porn. Maybe you suffer with video games. That is your activity then. Maybe it's content. That's your activity then. Right? It's taking a fundamental and then using it to help you in multiple scenarios, not just one. And so that is what I'm trying to do with this. So if you want endless motivation, you simply never reward yourself until you get done what you want to get done. Day to day, this could be like, you don't reward yourself until you are done with everything that you need to get done. It'll be hard, yeah, but it'll be motivating for sure.